3 minutes ago, on the deck of a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier somewhere in the Atlantic, an invisible beam of light reached out and ended a drone's existence in less than a second. No explosion, no smoke trail, no warning. Just heat focused into a point smaller than a coin until the metal gave up and the sky went quiet again. And almost nobody on Earth knew it happened, which is exactly the problem. Because what the United States Navy just confirmed was never really a test. It was a message. The opening move in a conflict that hasn't been announced yet. Fought with a weapon most people still assume belongs in a movie rather than on a warship. Everything you're about to hear is not speculation. It is happening right now on ships most Americans have never heard of, funded by numbers large enough to raise eyebrows in Congress and arriving on a timeline far faster than anyone in Washington seems willing to admit out loud. For decades, the idea of a working laser weapon on a Navy ship lived mostly inside budget documents and research labs, the kind of program that gets mentioned in a hearing, funded quietly, and then disappears from public conversation for another few years. That changed this year. The Navy has now confirmed, through its own released footage and documentation, that a high-energy laser system was fired live from the flight deck of a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier against real airborne targets under conditions built to resemble actual combat. Not a simulation running on a screen somewhere. Not a lab demonstration behind closed doors. A live-fire engagement, deck-mounted, ship-based, and by every available account, successful. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The Navy didn't rush to tell anyone. The test happened in October. The public didn't learn about it until April, nearly 7 months later. Sit with that gap for a second. The most advanced directed energy weapon ever fired from an American warship sat quietly buried for close to 200 days before anyone outside the program knew it existed. That's not paperwork moving slowly through a bureaucracy. That's deliberate operational secrecy. And operational secrecy of that kind usually means one thing. The people running this program did not want potential adversaries to know exactly how far the technology had already come. The ship carrying this weapon was the USS George H.W. Bush, a Nimitz-class carrier powered by twin nuclear reactors, carrying an air wing of roughly 90 aircraft and a crew north of 3,500 sailors, one of the most powerful warships ever constructed by any nation on the planet, not some stripped-down test barge floating quietly on a firing range. And bolted onto its flight deck sat something called the Locust Laser Weapon System, a containerized, palletized, high-energy laser installed with no permanent structural rebuild and no deep integration into the ship's main combat network. Functioning almost as a standalone module, you could, in theory, drop onto nearly any flight deck in the fleet. Think about what that actually means. The Navy built something powerful enough to physically destroy an aircraft in flight and made it portable enough to bolt onto a carrier without redesigning the ship around it. That's not an experimental curiosity anymore. That's a deployable concept, proven under real conditions. And once something like that exists, it rarely stays contained for long. But the carrier test is only the visible surface of a much bigger story. According to the Navy's own after-action reporting, the Locust system completed what engineers call the full kill chain: detect, track, destroy, against multiple unmanned aerial threats in a single engagement, and independent defense outlets have since described the result as a perfect kill rate against every drone it engaged, no misses reported anywhere in the sequence. This wasn't a rushed experiment thrown together under pressure. This was a deliberate demonstration executed with precision in front of exactly the people who needed to see it work. And the timing of all of this is not a coincidence. The Navy's sudden urgency around laser weapons traces back to one specific place: the Red Sea. Since late 2023, American and Allied warships operating in that corridor have absorbed wave after wave of low-cost drones and missiles launched by Houthi forces in Yemen, and every single time, the response has meant firing multi-million-dollar interceptor missiles at threats that sometimes cost only a few $1,000s to build. Read that trade one more time. The United States has been spending missiles worth well over $1 million apiece to shoot down drones built for a fraction of that price. That math simply does not survive contact with a prolonged conflict. And when the math stops working, a military starts hunting for something that breaks the equation entirely. That's exactly where the laser enters the story, and it's the point where this stops being about one test on one carrier and starts being about a genuine shift in how naval warfare gets fought for the next half-century. Once a laser system is fully powered and online, a single shot costs only a few dollars in electricity. Compare that against a rolling airframe missile running close to $1 million, or a Tomahawk cruise missile, priced well into 7 figures depending on the variant, and picture a ship under sustained drone attack, the exact kind already seen in the Red Sea, firing interceptor after interceptor until its launch cells run dry, because that has already happened. Defense analysts tracking recent high-intensity operations have pointed out that entire destroyer strike groups burned through such a large share of their missile magazines on defensive intercepts alone that only a small fraction of their launch capacity remained, available for any offensive strike at all. Think about what that means. Some of the most advanced warships on the planet were pushed into such a demanding defensive posture that they could barely function as offensive weapons anymore. And this isn't a hypothetical scenario dreamed up in a strategy paper. It already happened this year in real combat operations, which is precisely why the Chief of Naval Operations stood in front of the House Armed Services Committee in May and delivered what amounted to an urgent warning. High-energy laser weapons are no longer a nice-to-have research project. In his own words, they have become a necessity for the survival of the surface fleet. So what exactly is being built, and what is it actually costing? This is where the numbers stop sounding abstract and start sounding genuinely alarming. The Army and Navy have jointly committed to a program called the Joint Laser Weapon System, engineered from the ground up as a containerized high-energy laser initially rated at 150 kilowatts, with a clearly stated path to scale up toward at least 300 kilowatts, and a beam control architecture designed to eventually support weapons somewhere in the 300 to 500 kilowatt range. For context, an early naval laser tested back in 2014 produced just 33 kilowatts. What's being engineered right now is up to 15 times more powerful. And critically, it's being built specifically with cruise missiles in mind, not just slow-moving drones. That's an entirely different category of threat. A cruise missile moves faster, carries a warhead, and gives almost no reaction time. So if a laser system can reliably track and destroy something moving at that speed, the entire calculus of naval missile defense shifts overnight. And the money behind this effort is not small by any measure. The Navy's budget request for fiscal year 2027 allocates close to $95 million specifically toward directed energy weapons, a jump from just over $14 million the year before, more than a six-fold increase inside a single budget cycle. Nearly $80 million of that new funding is earmarked to jumpstart the Joint Laser Program, sustain the Navy's existing Helios laser system, and upgrade a specialized test facility built to simulate cruise missile defense scenarios. But here's the figure that should really stop you cold. Looking further out, the Navy and Army together have outlined a combined research and development commitment north of $675 million running through fiscal year 2031. That is not the funding profile of a single weapon program. That is the financial architecture of an entire generational shift in how American warships defend themselves, unfolding on a timeline measured in years, not decades. And here's where the story gets heavier still, because this is no longer an isolated Navy side project. The Joint Laser Weapon System has been explicitly folded into something called Golden Dome, a sweeping missile defense architecture the Pentagon is constructing to protect American forces, and potentially the homeland itself, from advanced missile threats. According to budget documentation, the funding directed at the Surface Navy's laser program specifically includes money to build a consolidated implementation plan across every Golden Dome-related directed energy project, coordinated directly with the Missile Defense Agency. Consider the scale hiding inside that detail. This has quietly stopped being a story about a single laser on a single ship fending off cheap drones in the Red Sea. It has become a story about lasers being woven into the foundation of a national missile shield, with the same beam technology validated on the flight deck of the USS George H.W. Bush this year, now positioned as one of the load-bearing layers of how the United States plans to defend itself against the next generation of missile warfare. Genius, and it isn't confined to the ocean either. According to defense industry reporting, by the end of 2025, the Army had already received palletized laser units, along with versions mounted on tactical vehicles and infantry squad vehicles, with at least some already deployed overseas, while the Marine Corps has pursued its own mobile counter drone configurations in parallel. In February of this year, one of these Locust laser units was directly implicated in an airspace restriction event near El Paso, Texas, quiet confirmation that this technology is no longer confined to overseas battlefields or isolated test ranges. It is already operating inside America's own borders. What most people are missing entirely is how fast this technology has moved from concept to actual footprint. Land vehicles, ships, domestic airspace, all inside the span of roughly a year. And according to defense analysts tracking the program closely, a rollout that rapid across that many domains signals something well beyond routine modernization. It signals urgency, and urgency inside a military procurement cycle almost always means the threat environment has already shifted faster than the public conversation has caught up to. So why is all of this accelerating specifically now, in 2026? The answer sits at the intersection of three converging pressures, and once you see all three laid out together, the picture becomes very difficult to ignore. The first is cost. Drone warfare has fundamentally broken the economics of traditional missile defense, and when an adversary can launch a swarm of cheap, expendable drones that force a defender to burn through million-dollar interceptors one at a time, the defender eventually runs out of missiles long before the attacker runs out of drones, a losing position for any navy, regardless of budget size. The second pressure is magazine depth, the blunt physical reality that a warship can only carry so many missiles before it needs to sail home and rearm, sometimes thousands of miles from the nearest port. Whereas a laser only needs electricity and cooling, and as long as the ship's power systems can sustain that load, the magazine effectively never empties, which is exactly why naval officials have started describing directed energy weapons as offering functionally unlimited depth of fire. And the third pressure, arguably the most uncomfortable one, is the missile threat itself, because cruise missiles and hypersonic weapons are proliferating among potential adversaries faster than traditional kinetic defenses can realistically scale to match. And according to the people actually running these programs, the only way to keep pace is a layer of defense that doesn't depend on a finite stockpile of expensive interceptors. But none of this arrives without serious obstacles. And this is where the story takes a genuinely darker turn, because behind all the dramatic test footage and the headline budget numbers, the Navy is privately wrestling with a problem that has nothing to do with the lasers themselves. It's about power, or more precisely, the lack of it. Even the Navy's newest and most capable destroyers, the Flight 3 Arleigh Burke-class ships carrying the powerful new SPY-6 radar system, are already running their onboard generators at maximum capacity, simply to keep existing sensors and weapons operational. One former senior Navy official described these ships bluntly as being, in his own words, completely out of spare electrical capacity. Read that again. The Navy's most modern warships, the ones meant to form the backbone of the future fleet, currently do not have enough spare power generation to run a high-energy laser weapon at meaningful scale, even if you bolted one onto the deck tomorrow morning. That is the real bottleneck sitting underneath this entire program, and it's the reason senior Navy leadership has been pushing hard for an entirely new generation of warships, built from the keel up around directed energy weapons, engineered specifically with compact, high-density energy storage and advanced thermal management systems capable of absorbing the brutal heat and power demands these weapons generate. And this is where the picture shifts entirely, because it reveals that the real laser revolution the Pentagon is racing toward isn't actually about laser technology at all. In many cases, the lasers themselves already work. The true bottleneck is the ship, the power plant, decades of legacy naval architecture that was never designed to sustain weapons drawing this much continuous electrical load, meaning the next major leap in American naval power won't come from a breakthrough. In optics or beam control, it will come from an entirely new class of warship built around the assumption that the next war at sea will be fought with light instead of explosives. That's a staggering shift in doctrine. And it raises a question almost nobody in the mainstream conversation is asking out loud. How long can the current fleet realistically hold up in a high-intensity conflict if its own defensive doctrine is being redesigned around a weapon most of its ships aren't yet equipped to fully use? Meanwhile, the rest of the world isn't standing still watching this unfold. China has been investing heavily in its own directed energy programs with state media, periodically showcasing ground-based and naval laser concepts of its own. And while production lines for conventional weapons take months or years to scale, a laser built into a ship with sufficient power can fire indefinitely, limited only by heat dissipation and available electricity. In a prolonged war of attrition, that difference alone could decide who runs out of options first. So where does that actually leave the United States right now, in the middle of 2026? On one hand, it has a working, combat-tested, deck-mounted laser weapon proven against real airborne targets aboard one of its largest aircraft. Carriers. A research commitment exceeding $675 million running through 2031, an accelerating budget trajectory, and a clear strategic rationale rooted in hard combat lessons from the Red Sea. On the other hand, it has a fleet of existing warships that, by its own senior officer's own admission, cannot yet generate enough power to fully exploit this technology at scale, and a development timeline stretching years into the future before truly high-powered cruise missile-killing lasers become standard equipment across the surface fleet. The gap between what has been proven possible in a single test and what is currently deployable across an entire Navy is enormous, and that gap is precisely where the next chapter of this story is going to be written. What happens next hinges on questions that remain genuinely unresolved. Will the next generation of warships, the ones being designed specifically to carry these weapons, actually arrive in time to matter in whatever conflicts may be coming? Will rival militaries close the technological gap faster than expected, the same way drone warfare itself caught traditional forces off guard in the Red Sea? Will the staggering cost of building an entirely new generation of power-dense warships survive across multiple defense budgets and multiple presidential administrations? Or will it buckle under its own ambition the way so many sweeping Pentagon programs have before it? And perhaps, most unsettling of all, if a weapon this consequential was tested in October and only revealed to the public in April, what else is happening on the decks of American warships right now that nobody outside a small circle has been told about yet? 3 minutes ago, a beam of light ended a drone's flight path somewhere over the Atlantic. It will not be the last time it happens. The only real question left is whether the rest of the fleet and the rest of the world watching from the outside will be ready for whatever comes after.